Love handles are basically just excess body fat around the hips and the waist. I used to think that I was stuck with love handles. Maybe you feel the same, maybe you have felt the same in the past. Many of my clients felt the same before reaching out until they made a transformation. If you want to get transformations like the photos on screen, then be sure to reach out to me. This video is going to talk you through exactly how to get rid of your love handles, so make sure you watch this video until the end. Some people believe it's genetics, and yes, sometimes it can be genetics which determine where we store our most stubborn body fat. But to store excess body fat anywhere, you need to be in a calorie surplus, basically consuming more than you're burning. And yes, what most people don't talk about is the fact that we do have stubborn fat cells around your hips and your waist. So it does take longer to lose fat from those areas. But the only way to actually get rid of this is to work on losing fat, like overall fat. You can't spot reduce. There's no way to specifically target the fat loss in the hips and the waist. Step number 1, focus on building muscle. Not only will building muscle help you look leaner at higher body fat percentages, it will also mean that you'll burn more calories at rest over time as you build more muscle. This will make it easier for you to keep the fat off and have that lean look you want. So if you've got, for example, 3 days to train, I recommend doing a full body split. So that's a full body 3 times a week. If you have 4 days to train, I recommend you can actually still do a full body split, or you can do a push pull legs or upper lower split, whichever one obviously fits your time schedule. And what you want to do is you want to make sure you are progressively overloaded, make sure you're focusing on progressing and focusing on compound lifts. So 80% of your work, well, I'd say between 70 and 80% of your workouts should be focused on compound lifts. That's like squats, deadlifts, bench press, and all the variations in between as well, pull-ups, lat pull downs, bent over rows, and the other variations as well. So the different variations of those specific exercises, basically exercises that work more than one muscle at a time. So when you're focusing on that, you're just getting a better bang for your buck in the gym. And when it comes to training your abs, while training your abs is not going to speed up the fat loss, or well, in the area around the midsection, it's not going to speed it up in any way. What it's going to do is it's going to help you build the muscle underneath. So when you do get rid of that fat, you're going to have that lean and ripped look, that look where you actually have abs and obliques visible, which again makes your waist look even slimmer. And it's more impressive, and it's probably the look you're actually going for. And ways to train your abs, you can use exercises like cable crunches, the ab rollout with the wheel. You can use extended planks, you can use like an ab bicycle on the floor. All those exercises, you want to focus on progressively overloading them over time as well to build the actual muscle underneath. Step 2, add in some cardio. As you might know, I'm a big fan of walking. I recently made a video on how to get in those walks, how to get in those steps in multiple different ways just to suit your specific lifestyle. And you're probably wondering, why am I not focusing on eating less? Because what I want to do is, if you have the time, maximize your energy expenditure first, and then you can decrease the amount of calories you're eating. We'll get into that later in the steps. But basically what this will do is this will make sure you don't, first of all, feel like shit, and secondly, you don't hit a plateau where you're like, oh, I've done everything, like what more can I do? And you're just basically at this plateau where you've maxed out your exercise and you've maxed out your maxed out your calorie deficit basically, and you'll feel like shit, and you'll be way less likely to stick with it, and you need to stick with it long enough to actually see that stubborn fat come off as well. So steps, you can start by, well, I say steps, but try and get in between, I'd say try and get 10,000 steps in, but look at where you're at now, track it, and then try and add some steps all the way until you get up to 10,000, and you can actually go beyond that. So walking is a great option. just because it's low impact and does not affect your recovery and has tons of mental as well as physical benefits. Step 3 is get into a calorie deficit. So you're doing resistance training, you're getting in your walks, your daily walks, you're exceeding 10,000 steps, and suddenly you've hit a plateau. Then what you can do is reduce the amount of food you're eating. This doesn't mean that you reduce it to like nothing. What I suggest doing is creating a calorie deficit of between 20 and 25%. So you actually start at 20%, then you can reduce it later on when you stop seeing results. But you need to make sure you adjust this calorie deficit when you lose weight. So say you get down to, say you lose like 5 pounds, you have a new maintenance, and then what you do with that new maintenance is you work out your new calorie deficit. So you actually will have to eat less food to continue to lose weight at the same rate. So bear that in mind. You can use something like MyFitnessPal. If you use MyFitnessPal, select it to lose 1 pound a week. Personally, I don't actually like using MyFitnessPal to work out the formula, but what you can do then is, if you're willing to, you can use the Mifflin-St. Jean equation, then input it into MyFitnessPal. When you input it into MyFitnessPal, then you're able to adjust the macronutrients. And what I suggest then is to take protein at about 1 gram per pound of goal body weight. Carbs, they can be whatever's left over after you're meeting the minimum fat requirements, and that's between 25 to 35%. If your diet is naturally low in fat, I'd go for the 25% and have the rest in carbs. You can always play around with those numbers, but the most important thing is the calories and the protein. I recommend you start by tracking. You don't have to track forever, but it's definitely a good starting point. It's a good starting point once you've maxed out your steps and you're doing your resistance training consistently, then you can introduce some tracking. Step number 4, this is often overlooked. Manage your sleep and stress. To me, sleep and stress go hand in hand. If you're sleeping enough, then you're going to be less stressed throughout the day, and you're going to be recovering better between workouts. Many studies have found that if you're not sleeping enough, then this will impair fat loss. So I recommend aiming between 7 to 9 hours sleep per night. Stress can cause you to overeat and under recover as well. Both of those things you don't want, especially when you're trying to get rid of your love handles. So one of the ways you can actually reduce stress is reduce the amount of caffeine you ingest. High amounts of caffeine, even lower amounts of caffeine, have been shown to increase stress, specifically in people that are more prone to stress. So if you're having a stressful moment or a stressful time at work, then you ingest caffeine, then you're going to be more stressed. Also, a calorie deficit, especially higher calorie deficits, can cause your body to produce more cortisol, the stress hormone. So that's also something to bear in mind. So what can you do? Don't go too extreme in a calorie deficit to start out with anyway. Then you can reduce your caffeine intake. That will help you reduce your stress levels. And on top of that, you can go for walks, which I recommended anyway, going for walks as your cardio. And you can also add in meditation and do your best to remove the stressors if and where possible. So if you follow those 4 steps, you will get rid of your love handles, and they will go for good if you are consistent. Consistent means following something that you can follow consistently. Remember, so don't create these crazy iterations of the steps I've just given you. So take them as they are. Don't go crazy. Be like, oh, he said 20 to 25% calorie deficit. I'll go 40 and it'll be faster. No, you can't rush this. This takes time. Stick with it long enough and you will get the results you want and need. Anyway, if you haven't clicked that like button, click that like button now. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit that subscribe button below. Click those bell notifications to be alerted as soon as I post a video in the future. If you want to join a growing community of men looking to build muscle and lose fat at the same time, then you head on over to my Facebook group, and where you can join for free. It has a lot of exclusive content in there. And if you've got any further questions, feel free to get in touch with me. And until the next video, keep pushing those limits.